everyone, and welcome back, or if this is your first session, welcome to Marketing Showcase Online webinar days. So my name is Ashley Jones and I'm the event director, and I'll be your kind of makeshift host and presenter for today, guiding you through our webinars and generally making a bit of a nuisance for myself. So this next session's all about websites, and we've got a brilliant speaker hosting this one for you, and it's Will Roberts, founder of WebBox. And his talk is going to be a whistle-stop tour for the 22 must-haves for your website in 2022. So we've got 30 minutes to go through this one. So Will is going to be hard-pressed to rattle through those website must-haves. Hi, Will. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Ash, you okay?
Yeah, really well. So I'm not going to spend too much longer talking about it, and I can see we've got a good audience sat behind us ready to watch. So I'm looking forward to getting underway with the 22 must-haves for your website in 2022.
No problem. Thanks, Ash, and thanks for the intro. Thanks everyone for joining today. Really appreciate your time. So look, I've got quite a task on my hands today to get through these 22 must-haves, but I hope that regardless of whether you've just had a website built or whether you had a website built maybe 6-8 years ago, hopefully there's content in here that everyone can take away. So just a very, very quick intro to myself. So I'm Will, I'm the managing director and founder of a digital agency called WebBox. I founded WebBox 13 years ago now because I had an absolute passion and desire for better customer service within our sector. I believe that we could do things better and quicker than other agencies, and I'm hoping that that's still the case now in 2021. We work with brands like the NHS, Fevertree, Airbus, St John's Ambulance, to name a few, to help them define their requirements for their website projects and performance marketing campaigns. So day to day, I meet with a lot of different organizations of all different shapes and sizes, helping them do just that. So hopefully I can share some of that knowledge and some of my predictions for next year with you today. So why does all of this matter anyway? Well, ultimately, we all know that things are going in the digital direction very quickly, but obviously the pandemic has really sped that up. So this stat from the Gartner Future of Sales basically says it all. You know, by 2025, 80% of B2B sales and interactions between suppliers and buyers will occur in digital channels. Therefore, your website or web presence has to be absolutely on point, because this is where your customers and clients will be. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into it with our first must-have. So must-have number one is advanced micro interactions. So what is that? Let me just show you a very quick example of what this is. So as you can see, as you're scrolling down this web page, there's various animations going on. So we know the general purpose of design is communication. You know, but the great thing is digital design can accomplish a back and forth between the website and the user. So these moments in which a user takes an action, such as like clicking a button or scrolling down a web page, allows the website to then respond and to interact. And this is basically called a micro interaction. Now, this is not necessarily something new, but our prediction for 2022 is that we're going to see micro interactions become a lot more macro. So designers will intensify them through extreme animations and page transitions. This could range from maybe sudden zooms to a complete reshuffling of the page layout. So although the design principle of less is more still is one that we stand by and still important for websites, these over-the-top transitions don't necessarily come across as intrusive because the user is causing them to happen via scrolling or by a click. Okay, into number two, brand transparency. So when you're visiting some websites, you might see images like this, for example, on a product e-commerce website. Now, obviously UX is a silent teacher. UX, for those that don't know, is user experience. And it shows users where to find menus or buttons without them needing to ask. Now, navigation, however, is not the only lesson UX has to impart. Recently, we've seen a rise in UX that is centered around demonstrating a brand's ethics, showing the user how exactly products are made or services are provided. So this is really important because we're now in a marketplace where customers and clients want to know more than just what you have for sale. So actually, through clear product breakdowns and transparent labeling or service breakdown, it's important that your website demonstrates that your company exists both in the digital sphere, but also in the real world that its products and services affect. Number 3 is live collaboration. So let me just show you a quick clip to put this in context. Great. So live collaboration. Now, this is obviously something which has been incredibly sped up because of the pandemic, because we're all working from home as a pretty much global standard. And as a result, it's no surprise that we've had an increase in online collaboration features. And ultimately, we expect this trend to continue and increase next year. So examples of these kinds of features include live viewing, editing, commenting, messaging, and tagging, culminating in a resounding death for local files. Now, for UI designers, for their part, are representing these simultaneous users through vibrant color coding, creative designs, and snazzy avatars. So while these collaborative apps are coming more common in the kind of tech space, we are also seeing them extend into other industries. So for example, when you go to buy a kitchen and having the ability to build your kitchen virtually using drag and drop cabinets around the screen, all of this is part of this live collaboration to give the user an immersive experience. Now, stemming off that is our 4th point, augmented reality. Now, here's a great example from a bike shop, just to put this into perspective for you. So you can see there, as you're actually navigating around the website, that there's a lot of interaction going on, but they use AR to actually place the bike in a real scenario. Now, augmented reality is nothing new. It's actually been around since the 90s, but ultimately, as our smartphones and cameras have been, improved significantly, this has really kind of launched AR into mainstream. So up until now, I guess it's been a little bit more kind of gimmicky, some might say, but actually kind of AR apps are expanding to become more practical and commonplace. So we're actually seeing AR used a lot more within websites nowadays, especially to enhance the user experience. And this, again, was enhanced through the pandemic. So, for example, it might be that you want to show someone around a property that you're renting out, and you use AR to enhance that experience. Alternatively, you might be wanting to do a tour of a museum, and again, you could use AR to enhance the tour. So these are the kind of scenarios where it's being used. And actually, if you can do it well, it will actually make your web experience be something which is unforgettable rather than just another website online. Number 5, mobile first design. Now, actually, no one's going to be surprised that I've got this in the must-have for 2022, because Google has moved to a mobile first index, and it is incredibly important that your website has a mobile first design. What does that actually mean, though, when it comes to putting this into practice? Well, what it means is when you're actually designing a new website or thinking about a new page for your existing website, that you actually consider its experience on a mobile before that of a desktop. And that's important because statistically, around about 60% of internet users will use their mobile device. Now, it's important to make sure that you know the split on your website between mobile and desktop users. And if it is greater for mobile users, then we really encourage you to take this mobile first approach. Also, just as a side point, Google is now really kind of preferring websites that are mobile first, but also that load very quickly on a mobile. So there's also kind of SEO benefits to this. Okay, number 6, so cookie-based tracking. Okay, so you might have heard already that there's an imminent demise of the browser-based cookies. And this is actually driving a huge shift in our sector at the moment, especially when it comes to performance marketing. So if you're doing any sort of paid advertising, paid ads, Google ads, pay-per-click, then ultimately this is going to affect you. It might have already now, but it will definitely affect you more next year. So the industry is facing the loss of third-party cookie data from Google, because ultimately Google is driving some new innovation when it comes to how cookies are stored. Now, to overcome this change, I'm going to make this really simple. It's just important that you discuss this with your existing web developers, because ultimately it is going to be a technical conversation, but you need to be ahead of the curve. Don't let this catch you out next year. Make sure that your website is tracking people in a compliant way, using server-side cookies rather than browser-side cookies. Okay. Try not to get too technical there, sorry. Number 7, motion UI design. So a little animation for you here on screen. So as you can see, when you press a download button, it gives you a loading symbol and then says that the file is ready for you to download. This is called motion UI design. So we're really encouraging that you make use of motion UI design to boost page interactivity. Ultimately, it aids user experience by the user seeing what they should click and what will happen after clicking. So again, it comes back to that point where your website responds to the user's action. These are really simple to include in your website, but just give a real tactile experience to your users. Number 8, dynamic content. So I've got a quick video here. If I press play on that. So you can see on this video that user A on the left sees a particular version of the website. User B on the right sees a completely different version of that exact same website. And you might be saying, what's all that about? Okay, so this is dynamic content. Okay, so as consumers, we want information that is relevant to us and presented in the most convenient and concise way. Websites that display dynamic content have the highest engagement and conversion rates. But what exactly is dynamic content? So this is information, data, or visuals that are shown to users based on their location or maybe specific interests or behaviors. So for example, if I browse a particular website while I'm in London and then travel to New York, the content I would see would be different because they would know my location and change the content accordingly. This technology is also used within something called A/B split testing, where you show different versions of a web page to different users to see which one performs better. A quick top tip to leave you with, I would look into a tool called Personalize, and that's ending with YZE, Personalize, and that tool can be plugged into your website and will facilitate this kind of feature for you and allow you to do this level of testing. Okay, number 9, this is a really good one, page speed. Okay, so I'm not going to surprise anyone by saying that everyone hates a slow loading website. Okay, we all know that. But actually page loading time has always been one of the most important conditions for a well-optimized and converting website. But if you could previously get away with a website that loads in, let's say, 5 seconds, now you need to try even harder. So the majority of users report that they'll not stay on a website if it takes longer than even 2 seconds to load. So it's really time to ramp up those servers, optimize your code, simplify your design, and make sure that your website loads really quickly. Quick top tip again, have a look at Google's Page Speed Insights tool. So you can just search into Google Page Speed Insights, and run your website through that tool and see how it benchmarks. If you're not above 80% for both mobile and desktop, I'd really encourage that that's looked at by your developer. Number 10, accessibility. So what do I mean by accessibility? So let me just give you a screenshot. This is an accessibility tool called UAccess, which you can plug into any website, and it will give the user accessibility tools like changing font colors and font sizes, etc. So ultimately, you know, we are in the 21st year of the 21st century at the moment, and it's really logical, as highly developed society we are, to start taking disabilities seriously and make efforts for disabled people and those with other accessibility issues to deliver this content correctly for them. This is no longer a nice to have, and this is no longer something which just public sector websites should focus on. This is something which we're really encouraging all of our clients to take on board and make sure that their website is accessible and compliant for those with those needs. So really kind of let's bust that myth today, not for public sector. This is for everyone. And I would, again, as a top tip, just encourage you to have a look at UAccess and how that could maybe be plumbed into your website to facilitate that kind of functionality. Okay, we're halfway there, folks. 11 out of 22, and I'm now talking on dark mode. So Medium has researched this and actually found that a massive 82.7% of people answered yes to using dark mode on their Apple device by choice. Now, people like it because actually it's less, less glaring on your eyes. It's easier to kind of look at the screen, but also it can save battery life on phones and mobile devices. So there's other kind of benefits to it. Now, obviously, we know from Google that 40% of transactions are now being carried out on mobile devices. And this kind of feature called dark mode is now really quite common on all mobile devices natively. So it is important that websites follow suit. So actually, we're advising our clients at the moment to consider whether dark mode is a feature that they would like on their website. And this is simply either a toggle where the user could toggle it to dark mode as they want, or potentially at a particular time of the day, the website could automatically go into dark mode. And this would normally invert the colors so that you end up with a slightly darker background and the font would then be a lighter color such as white. So like I said, there's benefits to this from an accessibility and user experience perspective, but also on mobile devices, it's becoming a bit of a standard which users are likely to expect. So something for your website for 2022 for sure. Okay, number 12 is clear messages. So have you ever kind of wondered what you really need on your homepage? So we've always said a great copywriter. You know, we are an ultra consumer society and we don't have time for stuff that we don't need or don't care about. So whatever your unique selling point is, or your mission or your values are, they need to be presented in a simple one-liner and a very powerful message at the top of your homepage. And it must be the first thing that users see. They shouldn't have to scroll and to dig through loads of copy to find this. So really simple one, this one, but so many websites miss it. Make sure that you have a really clear one-liner at the top of your website, which sums up what you do, what you stand for, what you offer, okay? In essence, set out your stall above the fold. That's the phrase I use. So value copywriters, value the fact that they can put words together really well for you and they can think outside the box. Definitely worth using one if you're not at the moment. But yeah, definitely have a think about a one-liner for your website, because so many websites on first visit just confuse users because they're not sure actually what you offer. Number 13, so stemming off that, is call to actions. So good design will naturally draw the user's attention to your call to actions. Now, we encourage you to incorporate multiple call to action types. So you might have a phone number, a contact form, you know, a get involved form, a newsletter sign up form, maybe downloading an ebook, for example, but there's many others. And all of these call to actions are touch points that you can engage with your ideal customers. So really ensure that your website has these clear call to actions, and make sure that on mobile devices, they're either stuck to the top of the screen or somewhere accessible that they can always find them really quickly. 14 is chatbots. Okay, so I'm sure you've heard of chatbots. This is not necessarily something new, but actually, even though we've talked about it for some time, they are very much here to stay and very much being used in more mainstream instances. Okay, now people have always complained because they're sometimes not human enough, not real enough, but actually that's changing. And I think in 2022, we're going to see a burst through of more human-like behavior from chatbots, because they are getting more intelligent and more personalized. So we encourage you to kind of incorporate this on your website to help users find content that they're looking for. But we also encourage you to test, learn from the data and pivot, so that you constantly evolve what your chatbot knows. Okay, so just to repeat that, test, learn from the data and pivot, and make sure you're doing that in a continuous cycle to continually improve your chatbot's effectiveness. Okay, number 15, progressive lead forms. So let me just give you an example in an image. So user comes across your website, and initially they see the first image on the left. It's a subscribe to newsletter. And at that point, all we're asking for is their name and email address. Once they've completed that form, on the second visit to their website, to your website, you might ask them for different details. So for example, we've already got their name and email, so we might ask them for their address and date of birth. Now, a lead form is the main way in which you can connect to your potential customers at the start of your working relationship. Encouraging users, though, to fill out very large forms is very challenging. As soon as the user sees more than maybe 5 fields on a form, you know, they think to themselves, oh gosh, this is going to take me a while, and they will more often than not leave it. So actually, using progressive lead forms will enhance the data that you can gather. It will make sure that you get the basic data up front, and then over time, you can continue to populate and drip feed additional data through to your CRM. So this is definitely something worth using. As a quick top tip, you might want to look at a form tool called Typeform. And what Typeform do is they really kind of cleverly present forms to users so that they aren't so daunting, and they're very accessible and very easy to use and intuitive. So if you're looking for a form builder to really kind of take things up another level, then I'd certainly recommend Typeform. Number 16, varying the user experience. So let me just show you an example of what I mean by this. So you can see on this video that this is the Apple website, okay? And thanks to kind of analytics tools in the background, the website is actually detecting how quickly the user is using that website and scrolling and you know, just navigating around. What it'll then do is it'll take that information and adapt the user experience. So if I go on to the next video now, so this is the exact same web page, but far quicker, because what it's done is it's detected that I was scrolling very quickly on the website, that I wasn't hanging around, and therefore it said, well, actually this user just wants to have a less animated, less immersive experience than maybe other users. So varying the UX is something, oh, sorry, I've just gone one step too far. Varying the UX is something which ultimately allows you to put your users at the forefront of your website. It allows you to kind of bring to the surface the fact that no 2 users are the same. And some people like that immersive experience and very animated and potentially over the top. And other people just want to get straight to the point. So actually, if your website can detect that by how quickly people scroll and interact with your content, and then adapt its user experience, will make sure that the website then adapts to different user groups on the website. So varying UX is something we're going to see a lot more of in 2022. Okay, number 17 is voice-activated interface. So the way we access information is changing, and instead of just typing things into Google, we're now kind of doing it via our voice. And ultimately, we expect that to come into websites soon as well. So in 2022, we're going to see a shift between traditional search boxes to actually allowing you to just speak into the website, and it will just take a voice search in. So this could be implemented alongside your traditional website search, and then you could monitor its usage to see how many people are actually using the voice search over the traditional search. Number 18 is storytelling. So if I just, I won't play the video just because of time, but if you go onto our own website, webbox.digital, and scroll down a little bit, you'll see this video. And ultimately, it gives you a little insight into WebBox as an agency. It's only a minute long, but it's our way of storytelling our journey and our culture and what we do through video. We're encouraging all website owners to incorporate this within their website, because it comes back to that authentic piece of people wanting to know who's behind the service or who's behind the product. So really important to tell your story through your website, and video is a great way to do that. So I'm going to skip past this one because of time, and I'm going to go straight through to landing pages. Okay, so number 19 is landing pages. So ultimately, landing pages is a must-have. If you haven't got them on your websites, then you really need to consider building them next year. These are destination pages for each motivated visitor who clicks a call to action and is critical to your conversion success. Landing pages that integrate to customer relationship management and marketing automation platforms are even better, because it takes away that manual data entry as well. It's also important to put you in the driving seat. So making sure that your website has a good content management system so that you can create and develop landing pages yourself without having to go back to your agency for very small changes. So if you haven't got landing pages, I'd really encourage you to consider this over the next few months. So we're nearly there now. Number 20, advanced tracking. So advanced tracking, this is something which most people don't have set up in our experience. So you might track the basics, such as how many people visit your website and what's the bounce rate and how long do they spend on your website. But you probably don't track which buttons are clicked and how many downloads you've had on a PDF, how long a phone call was from someone who inquired, things like that. And what we're encouraging you to do now is, as we move into a different realm of tracking, that you make sure these clear conversion points are tracked so that you can report back to your marketing departments and decision makers with the hard data, which is so important nowadays. Number 21 is your error page design. So you might have a website which has like an error page or a 404 page. And I'm just going to show a very quick example here. This is actually the website for Slack. And if you go to a URL which doesn't exist, you end up on this error page. And as you can see, it's quite nice. It's quite well animated. It actually responds as well to where you move your mouse. And that's nice because you can see that they've actually put thought into even a page which you would only see if you had an error on the website. Now, what this tells me is Slack is an organization that actually care about every part of their website. So we're encouraging you to spend time on those unloved areas of your website. In essence, leave no stone unturned. And finally, as I come into land, number 22 is neumorphism. Okay, so this is an example of what this design trend looks like. You can see here from the kind of buttons on screen, that kind of almost 3D lifted from the page effect. And that's what we call Neumorphism. Now it's a fairly new design trend, and a term that's gotten a good amount of buzz lately, I guess, from our UX and UI team. Now these elements look like they're connected to the background, as if the elements are extruded from the background and inset into the background as well. They've been described by some as soft UI because of the way soft shadows are being used to create the effect. Now, it's really nice effect. And actually, what's interesting, if you've been around for, kind of 10 years, 15 years, as I've been doing this, you'll kind of quickly realize that actually shadows were a design trend that were kind of very much left behind many years ago. And actually how the kind of things are coming back in a full circle is interesting, because this is actually something which you would normally think might be dated, but actually is coming back now as a design trend. Again, we're starting to incorporate that on our own website. So if you have a look at webbox.digital, you will start to see some buttons with this design effect, so you can actually see what it looks like for yourself. So that's everything from me. Thank you ever so much for listening. I really appreciate your time. Sorry that we've run out of time today, but hopefully these 22 will be useful for you. Obviously, afterwards, I'll give you a copy of the slides as well, so that you can kind of digest this content in your own time. And then I'll finally leave you with this poll as well, which I'd love you to take part in. So what is your biggest challenge at the moment? Okay, so if you'd like to kind of take part in this poll, please do. Please select one of the options here. Tell us about your biggest challenges at the moment. And what I can actually do following up then is actually tease out some of these 22 must-haves which are relevant to your particular challenges at the moment, to help guide you and plan your website for 2022. So thank you everyone so much for listening. I really appreciate you taking part today.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching another recording from Marketing Showcase Online. I hope you enjoyed it. Just to let you know, we've got all of the recordings uploaded to our brand new YouTube channel, so go over there and check it out if you want some more great content. We run these events once every month, free of charge, so head over to our website to grab tickets for next month's event. I look forward to seeing you there.